Welcome back to the Seaboard Central, everyone. In today's video, we're going to wrap this series up by giving this Athearn ready to roll 50-foot boxcar, now lettered for the Seaboard Central, a little light coat of weathering. Now, my goal for this car is for it to represent a car that's been freshly rebuilt and painted for the Seaboard Central. This will end up being a nice contrast to the cars that are heavily weathered, and here you'll have one that looks new and lacks the graffiti. So in last week's video, we upgraded the car by giving a new set of trucks, including the Code 88 narrow wheel treads, KD 158 couplers, an uncoupling lever, and an air hose. And one of the first things we need to do is paint this uncoupling lever and touch up the coupler itself and the air hose. So to come up with a similar color as the boxcar, I'm going to use this oil brusher. This is made by MIG Ammo, and this color is rust, and it has its own little applicator. And what I'm going to do is just paint this whole area of the uncoupling lever, but I'm not going to paint the handle itself. I've got something else I'm going to do for that, but I am going to get the very top of it and that eye bolt hook that we added. Also, don't forget to do the back side of it. That'll take care of the uncoupling lever. Now the next thing I do, I'm going to add some accents with this Tamiya flat white. I'm going to show you where I put this on the car. So I've shaken the bottle up and I've got some in the cap here. I'm going to take a paintbrush that's got just a little bit right there on the tip of the paintbrush. And what I want to do is I want to add this white paint to the handle. Right there on the handle, where the conductor would grab this cut lever. Maybe add just a little bit more. Where it'll stand out, just like that. Another thing I want to do is add, I'll zoom in so you can see, there is what they call an angle cock right here on the top of this air brake line. Those are also have a little white added to them. Just like that. And also, one of the things we want to do is nowadays, whenever to identify if the chain is loose and the handbrake's all the way released, what they do is they've added a little bit of white paint right here on the top of the chain. And that just lets the conductor know that the handbrake is fully released. If there's no white paint, that means that either the chain is binding or the handbrake's been applied. All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to address the very end of this air hose that we call the glad hands, where they connect. It's a metal piece that connects to the other air hose on the adjacent car, and I'm going to use a pale gray. This is a Vallejo pale gray, and I've just put a little bit on the little piece of scrap styrene, and I just want to touch that. And that will help give the illusion of the glad hand on the end of the car. I'll do this end too. Make sure I get both sides of it. There we go. Now, most of the time when it comes to couplers, I have a jig that I made. I've just cut off the end of some clothespins, glued them to a block of wood. And what I can do is I can put the coupler in to hold it like that. And I'll either spray it with this red-brown, this TS1 red-brown by Tamiya, or this dark earth, this AS22 dark earth. They do a good representation of weathering the coupler, and this one's been done. You can see this. I think this one has the dark earth. You can just spray it real quick. But on this one, we're going to do something different. I'm going to show you another thing you can do. Now, this is another oil brusher by MIG Ammo. This one's ochre. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit right there on the end of that coupler and on the top of it. And on this side over here. Now, it looks pretty bad right now, but I'm about to fix that. So next up, I've got some dark rust. This is by Bragdon. This is weathering powders. And I'm going to take a small brush and just get some of these weathering powders loaded up on the brush. And while that paint is still wet, I'm really going to weather this coupler up. And I wanted to make sure I keep that spring from, you don't want to affect that spring, otherwise your coupler won't work. Won't open and close good. But a lot of these couplers, they're really rusty because they get used all the time. And this is going to be a great way to achieve that rust look on that coupler. And it gives it a lighter rust look, which you could achieve with a paint, but I just think the powders just do a great job of representing that look. All right, our next step is to remove the trucks again. And we're going to address the trucks and the underside of this car. So next up, we're going to do some airbrushing. I'll show you my setup that I have here. I have a rolling workbench chest that I've got positioned right in front of a window so I can vent the fumes right outside. Now, this airbrush booth itself is something I picked up from Micromark, and you can also find this at Amazon, an airbrush booth. They're not that expensive, and they do the job. Now, there's a lot of good airbrushes on the market. This is what I have. I have this Awada Neo, and this is a double action airbrush. This one has a mixing cup, a gravity-fed mixing cup. And I'll show you a little bit more about that. I also have another Awada that is a siphon cup under the bottom. And here's my other Awada airbrush. Now this one is for big jobs. So you could do this certainly for things like track work or whatever, where you're going to have to go through a lot of paint. I don't use this often, but you can definitely use it for something like that. Now, to provide air for my airbrush, I picked up this tank from either Home Depot or Lowe's. I'm not sure, but it's got a way to adjust the settings right here. Another thing I added is this moisture trap that connects to the air hose. And also, this is where you adjust the amount of pressure coming out of the tank. I generally keep it around 30 PSI. And if I'm going to be using a nail gun, an air nail gun, I'll definitely turn it up. But for airbrushing, 30 PSI. So I've raised the window open, turn the airbrush on. Before I use it, I'll just run something like some 91% alcohol through the airbrush, just to check to make sure it's, and I got this little Awada cup that holds all the, you can see. When you pull the trigger back, that's what releases the paint, or in this case the alcohol. Just pushing it straight down just blows air. So the more you pull this trigger back, the more paint's going to come out. You see it's working good. The cup's empty. All right, there's a couple of different paint brands that I love to use in the airbrush because it's so much easier to clean the airbrush, and probably the number one is Tamiya. They're just some paints are really harder on the airbrush. I also like the Vallejo Air. They're pretty simple and easy to keep an airbrush clean. But right here we're going to start with this dark iron, this XF84, and we're going to address the trucks and the underbody of that boxcar. All right, so I've got paint inside the airbrush, and what I'm going to do now is just, I'm going to address these trucks. And this is going to take that shine off of the plastic on those trucks. And get the other side. And that's looking a lot better. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the underside of the car. I'm just addressing the under part. This part would not get painted on a real car, or not painted that brown color. I'm just only addressing the bottom of the car. So again, to clean my airbrush, I'm just going to add a little bit of this alcohol. And this, I'm going to take a little paintbrush like this. And this time, I'm just going to swirl this around that mixing cup. Go down in it. Until we completely drain all that out of the mixing cup. Also, I can address the tip of it right here. This is just like what they call an intermediate cleaning. I'll show you how easy it is to do like a formal, more, a better cleaning at the end. Probably one of my favorite colors for weathering is this Vallejo Dark Earth. I love to use this color to represent a dirt and grimy look. So we'll just add a little bit of this inside the airbrush. And what I want to do now is I just want to get the bottom of those trucks to the other side. And also where the trucks go on the rail car, where they would kick up mud and stuff like that. And while we're at it, we're going to do a little bit of a kick up spray on the end of the rail car. Water also makes a cleaner. We can use it to clean this paint out of the brush, airbrush. Again, I just have good results by taking a paintbrush and just swirling this around. You can look and see this. I'll just do this a couple of times. And I can tell it's already clean. All right, next up, we're going to go back with that pale blue gray by Vallejo. We'll just add a little bit into the cup. And now what I'm going to do, I might mix a little bit of this USF Air Force light gray. Just a couple of drops. And I can take the end of this paintbrush and mix it right there inside, and that's the color I'm looking for. And now what I'm going to do is address the roof. Now this is they put sealant on these older cars. That's all I'm doing is get in the roof, nothing else, just the roof. Just like that. Awesome. So here's another jig I made out of a block of wood, just a piano wire. This way the car can dry, the paint can dry. We'll let it dry here in the booth. Now something else you can use to remove stubborn paint is a 100% pure acetone. Now you can find this at places like a drugstore or Walmart, where the women get their products for their fingernail polish, to help remove fingernail polish. And so this is a new bottle. Add a little bit in here. Now this will really do a great job of cleaning your airbrush out. All right, something else we can do before we put the airbrush away. We can take this apart. Now, we want to clean this. I'll just take a paper towel with this acetone, and I'll run it through it just like that. I can put it back together. A little more in the cup. You can see it's going through there pretty fast now. And it's clean because these paints that I'm using are really gentle on an airbrush. Some paints, for example, the True Color paints, good luck. Man, they are really hard. I mean, if that's what you need to do a job, that's what you need. But you may have to really break this thing down to get that paint out of there. You definitely don't want paint like that setting up in your airbrush any length of time. So I'm just cleaning everything out. There we go. And now it's ready for its next use. All right, before we put this car back together, we need to finish these trucks up. And one of the things I like to use is this Monroe Models weathering wash. This is medium earth. And you make sure you shake it up real good. And here I'm just dipping my paintbrush in there, and I'm going to just add it to the surface of that wheel. Just kind of move the wheel around at the same time to get the face of that wheel done. And I may end up adding some to the springs on this truck and the roller bearing caps. That's how it turned out. I'll show you again the technique. Just with one finger, just take this and turn the wheel with it till you get the face of that wheel done. Again, I'll add just a little bit to the springs and those ends of those roller bearing caps. Now to do the back side of the wheels, I flip the trucks over and I just move them along where I paint those. You can see better here. Let's see. We're gonna clean these wheels, so trying to get an angle so you can see. And also we can address the axles as well. Just let it roll along and get the whole thing. One more thing we need to address on the car are these tack boards. Now I did add a little bit of that dark earth to them, but now what I'm coming behind it with now is this light gray weathering mix. This is by Hunterline. Make sure you shake it up real good. And what these are tack boards, and they can put like unload from this side on it, or it could be a bad order tag. So I'm just adding this. It's going to help to give it a nice little weathering effect. I'm doing it at the top of it and letting it come down. You don't get it on the car, just the tack board. It's going to give it a real nice effect. There we go. All right, last thing I'm going to do before I put the car in service is clean those wheel treads. Now, this may be controversial for some, but this works for me. This is a polishing pad on my Dremel tool. And you could definitely put the car on a piece of track with some mineral spirits to clean the paint off of those treads, but this is a quick, easy way for me to get those wheels nice and shiny. Got the car back together. Everything's looking good, but I did realize it's missing one last thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more of this dark iron, and I'm going to add it along this door track. What they'll do is they'll grease these door tracks to make these doors slide better. So they'll have grease on them. So all I'm doing here is just adding this on there to give the look of that grease look. And I'm gonna put some right on the bottom edge of this door where it's give that illusion of a slide, and I'm going to add a little to the top too as well, just to give that look of, has some grease that it also, right here, you can barely see it, but right here is where the forklift trucks will push these car doors open and closed. After they unlatch them, they'll take their forks, and there's little pockets right here, and they'll definitely take the paint off. So we can give a look of that as well. One more thing now that I'm thinking about it, I do want to add a little bit of this Vallejo burnt umber, and I've put a little bit on a pad, and I got a really small tip paintbrush, and just at the tip of that paintbrush, I'm going along right here beside the end of that door track, and maybe along this first rib, just lightly touch it where that door has slidden on that rib. This is where it really takes just a very tiny touch to pull off the illusion. That the car's not brand new, but it's been put into use and it's already seen some service. And right on the, as the door slides, if they push real hard on the door, it's going to hit these ribs and scratch the paint. And that right there will do it. We can also lightly add a little bit of effects on this ridge line of this roof, where even though they sealed it, it doesn't take long before the rust will start forming. I do want it to represent a car that's been recently sealed, but maybe had a few months in, and it's already getting just a little bit of rust that's starting to form. Weathering, you got to know when to stop and say that's good enough, because you can overdo it real quickly if you're not careful. Unless that's the look you're going for. But here, I really want to say this car is in really good shape. You can see the effect I'm going after. So that's going to wrap it up for today's video. If you enjoyed this series, be sure to give it a like, leave a comment. Next week, we're going to do the 2025 annual Seaboard Central Layout Tour, so be sure to tune back in for that. Till next time, I'm Tim Garland. Thanks for watching the Seaboard Central, and happy model railroading, everyone.